So the Elbing is a weird destroyer. Of course, after the Schultz, you would expect a pretty amazing experience, especially I'm sure a lot of you have seen the clips of Elbing being able to Citadel a Conqueror at 1 kilometer range away. Pretty nuts. And you'd expect that to mean the ship is pretty insane, maybe a little bit too strong. But I don't know, it's just a weird experience. It's not really felt like a destroyer. And the main reason I haven't really put a video out on this ship yet, even though I've had the ship for a while, is I really just haven't figured out how to play it fully yet. You can't really play traditional destroyer roles. Of course I knew this from playing the Schultz, but you're also not really a very good open water gunboat, kind of kiting cruiser, kind of that kind of deal. It's just so slow and big and clumsy. The Schultz feels very nimble in comparison to the Elbing, and this is something I really wasn't expecting. I knew it would probably not be as agile as the Schultz. Generally, as you go up to tier 10 with bigger ships, they just get clumsier. But this is a massive difference, and it's to the point where I've tested out some open water gunboating, and it's really not gone so well. I'll put some clips in at the end. This game, of course, I'm going to show you a pretty decent game I've had so far. But just know that this game is not necessarily the norm with this ship. You do want to flank with this thing. That's what I've been finding. If you go on flanks, you tend to get more broadsides. Your AP becomes much more useful. I really haven't shot much HE in this ship at all. Only when I really have to kill something that's bow on to me. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to try and choose different targets, go dark, reposition, that kind of thing. But when you are forced into these more destroyer-like roles, when, like in this game, you don't have a friendly destroyer on your flank to do the cap contesting, the spotting, that kind of thing, it's still possible for you to help your team, as long as you're able to push up and flank in ways that the enemy team won't expect or won't be able to focus as much on you. That's why I didn't go just charge into the ACAP. I've gone around the side, and I think that is going to be the way I'm going to play Elbing when I'm alone. Of course, if you can, you should be trying to either div up with a friendly destroyer, or if there's a DD on your side, try and just follow them, maybe a kilometer or two behind them, and just provide them with gun support. That is a really great way to play the Elbing. Of course, the goal is to find cruisers in this ship, because the AP is kind of insane. Just notice the angle that this Ibuki is going to take to me. No, I will not get Citadels at this angle, but that's fine. This AP does a massive amount of damage. I think it's almost around 4,500 damage when you take the AP damage captain skill. And that results in some pretty nasty salvos. 4,500 damage with just some full pens. 7,000 damage with just some full pens. Of course, you get the improved pen angles, much like a Des Moines. So the way you can kind of think of this ship as is a bow on Des Moines, just spamming AP at you. It's not quite that good, but it's close. And the reason I say it's close is the dispersion. Des Moines, of course, is famously bad for just having horrible dispersion a lot of the time. And, well, Elbing doesn't have the reload or the alpha or the pen, really, of the Des Moines. Of course, you get better dispersion, and you get better shell arcs, too. So it's not the greatest of comparisons, but it can feel like that sometimes when you're in some pretty powerful positions. You're like, wow, this feels like I'm playing my Des Moines, and it feels good. These flanks definitely are really nice to get. It's just providing another angle for the enemy team to have to deal with, and a lot of times battleships just can't get into these positions. Same with cruisers. They're just not stealthy enough to get into these more forward broadside positions. It'd just be suicide, right? Because there's no chance of escaping a lot of these positions, especially where I am right now. If you're in a cruiser or a battleship, it's just too far forward. Whereas an Elbing can smoke up and go dark, or you can just stop shooting and go dark, because my build that I'm running has around a 7.2 kilometer detection. It's not running concealment on the commander. I'm trying to get the range and guns buffed as much as possible, but it's really fun to play like this. And it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially when you find games with carriers. You'll notice there's no carrier in this game. Carrier games make it much harder to play in a position like this because, well, you're putting yourself kind of out in the open for a carrier to come strike. Yes, rocket planes have been nerfed, but your ship is so big and clumsy, you're still pretty easy to hit with rocket planes. And then don't even get me started on something like Midway dive bombers or FDR dive bombers. They hurt. They hurt a lot. So you do want to be careful in a CV game, that's for sure. But if you're lucky enough to not get a CV game, wow, these flanks are amazing. You can see we're already up to 100,000 damage just on this flank alone, and we were the only DD down here. And this push and this side has gone reasonably well. My team has played somewhat passively, outside of the Cleveland, who is pushed up pretty aggressively already, but that's okay because I'm able to push and make this aggressive play and get our team information, another flank for the enemy team to worry about, and then it's fine that my team is playing passive. You just need somebody to get these cross shots with you. And even though you're not going to be citadeling most battleships, especially at longer ranges, but you're giving them something to think about. 6,000 to 7,000 damage every 6 seconds or so is rough to deal with. That's not something to just ignore as a battleship player. That hurts, and it's very consistent. So I overall really do enjoy playing Elbing. It's a weird, different playstyle, and it's fun to figure out those different playstyles for me. I think it's a great addition to the game, mainly because it's not the same kind of HE spammer that we've been used to. Maybe the AP is a little bit too ridiculous in its ability to, say, Citadel Moskvas out to 16 kilometers. That might be a little bit nuts, but it certainly makes the ship fun to play. And if they were to tune it down, maybe reducing the AP pen and making it slightly more maneuverable would be an interesting option. It wouldn't feel quite so punishing as a cruiser player, right? Something that has way better detection than you and can just Citadel you and almost dev strike you. I've seen some clips of people getting caught in their Moskvas and Stalingrads and that, and they die in 4 to 5 salvos, which is not a lot of time, and those ships are so clumsy, there's really no opportunity for you to even angle sometimes. So you gotta watch out when this thing's in the game. Of course, you should be trying to focus it out, because this ship does not get a heal, and it's really easy to hit. So if you're in a cruiser or battleship, destroyer, that kind of thing, just get some damage in on this thing. This thing's relies on its HP to be this aggressive, right? And getting into these aggressive positions is where the ship is played at its best. But if you don't have the HP to hold some of these positions, you are gonna render the Elbing pretty useless in a match, honestly. This ship feels very comfortable, right? You got 35,000 HP pretty much. But as soon as you get down into that 10,000 HP range, you're pretty easy to kill. So focusing on just getting some chip damage in on an Elbing, well, is surprisingly effective, I think. Even knocking it down below 20,000 HP, it'll probably curb the way that player is playing and force them to play a little bit more passive, and then you won't get these flanks that just kind of crush your entire team. So it's not really an overpowered ship, I would say. I think it's just a good ship that's pretty fun to play. Something you do have to be very, very careful of this ship, though, is anything that can get full pens on you. So especially other Elbings and Schultzes, wow, these ships love to kill each other. They do so much damage with their improved pen angles, and let's be honest, the ship is so huge that you're guaranteed to get full pens when you have these lower caliber AP shells. So you're going to be taking some huge damage. And this is a great example of this. This Marceau player plays this very well. And this is very early on in my time with this ship. So I'm kind of limit testing in this game, you'll see later on as well. But I'm trying to fight a Marceau at the moment. And there's a Shimakaze over here. You can see we've basically lost this side of the map. And this is a great way for me to just see how durable the Elbing is and how well it can contest enemy destroyers just pushing into your spawn, getting these flanks, that kind of thing. Because it's very easy to lose matches when you allow the enemy team to just get a hard flank on you, right? Controlling B in this map is really important, and if you allow the enemy team to get C and then have both the north and the south side of C cap under their control, it's really, really hard to push into B, and you've pretty much lost the game. So it's really important for me to be up here, and it also happened to be a great example of what can happen if you're in an Elbing and an enemy destroyer is smart enough to shoot AP at you. Yes, we can chunk the Marceau a little bit, but look at how much damage he's done. That's 3 salvos. He's done 10,000 damage so far. Yeah, 4 salvos, and he did around 12, 13,000 damage to me. You gotta be really careful in this ship. You take AP pen damage like nothing I've ever seen. Fighting things like Darings or Vampires are terrifying. You give a little bit of angle, and they just crush you. Minotaurs, too. Of course, you can Citadel a Minotaur. But in a lot of these cases, if the enemy destroyer is smart enough to either go bow in and bounce your AP, or go flat broadside and you only get overpens, and they're just pumping AP into you, you're going to lose a lot of these trades, is what I've found. And that's probably for the best. I don't think this ship should be an amazing DD contester, cap contester, gunboat, that kind of thing. It does fit the more long-range cruiser contest role. AP flanking threat. I think it's a really good ship design. But yeah, just want to make sure you're aware that if you're going to play this ship, be careful of destroyers, especially DD players that know to shoot AP at you. That is the most terrifying thing in the world, because your health bar just evaporates. Yes, you've got a lot of it, but it evaporates very, 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 very quickly. Also, ships like Des Moines, I think, should be shooting AP at this ship. Yes, you do have a 25mm plate, and that does help you in DD fights, but oftentimes people are just going to shoot AP at you. Anything that can full pen this thing, as long as you're giving a decent angle, right? If you can full pen, get those broadside hits in with your armor piercing in a cruiser, you should definitely be shooting AP at this thing, because you're going to do so much damage. It's like back in the day when gearing could take battleship AP pens. That's what it feels like sometimes. I think I've been hit by, I think it was a Petropavlovsk, and his AP chunked me for, I think, 8,000 damage from one salvo, 9,000, somewhere in there. It was huge, and it's like, yeah, that's going to happen when you have a ship this big, so. You're not really able to contest the destroyers, but that's okay. I think this is a fun, interesting ship that takes a bit to learn to play. It's very different. So if you're going to get this thing, just know it's going to be, there's going to be a learning curve. It's not just like picking up any old destroyer. For those of you curious on how I'm building this ship, this is what I've got at the moment. I think range is important on a ship like this, because you do need that ability to just shoot at longer ranges once you've run out of smoke screens, and maybe you're at lower health, or it's beginning of the game and you don't want to give up so much health to push in so much. Concealment Expert, I'm not taking in favor of Fearless Brawler, Adrenaline Rush. Of course, we're taking Survivability Expert to get our HP a lot higher. I found my rudder and engine got broken a lot, so I'm taking Last Stand. And Preventive Maintenance as well to keep our guns and everything hopefully alive a little bit more. And Heavy AP Shells this is an interesting one. We're taking that over Main Battery and AA Specialist. It gives you a 5% reload buff. Sounds great, right? This only affects your AP. But since you're basically only shooting AP, 7.5% extra damage. So this almost is equivalent to a 7.5% DPM buff, whereas this is only a 5% DPM buff, and it's a skill point cheaper. It's, I think, just better on the Elbing than the Main Battery and AA Specialist. However, if you want to do a full gunboat, you can get rid of Last Stand and run Main Battery and AA Specialist. It's gonna hurt when you get into those closer range fights, but you're gonna get an extra 5% DPM. And that's something that I think is worth considering. I haven't played enough games in this ship yet to really get a good handle on if that's better or not. I'll likely be trying that later this week once I start playing this game a little bit more again. But just something to consider, that could be a decent skill for you. Now, for our upgrades, I think it's pretty standard. Reload, we're running Conceal, we're getting our acceleration better. Honestly, the rudder shift feels pretty horrible, even though it's only 6.3 seconds. The problem is this turning circle. it's nearly 900 meters. That's battleship territory you're getting into. So even if you buff your rudder shift time, you're really not turning all that quickly anyway. So that's where I've kind of just decided to run propulsion to hopefully dodge and accelerate with my engine rather than my rudder, and it's worked out okay. Main battery mod 2, because you need turret traverse on this ship. It's slow enough already for a destroyer. 180 degree turn time. It's kind of needed, especially if you don't take the turret traverse upgrade for the commander. Engine room protection, pretty standard. And main armament mod mod. Elbing is a very interesting ship. I think it is definitely worth getting. As far as the grind goes, the Schultz has been great, and the Elbing I think is worth it. I have not played the tier 8 or the tier 7, just as a disclaimer, so I'm not going to tell you that the line overall is just awesome all the way through, but just know the tier 9 and 10 are pretty fun and a very unique experience. So if you played the game a long time and you're looking for something fresh, I think this is a good option for you. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.